Sean is just letting people in from the waiting room still, so I'll give it just another second and then we'll get started. As you logged in, you probably got the notification that we're going to be recording. So if for any reason you don't want your face on the recording, feel free to go ahead and turn your camera off. So see people streaming in, so I'll just give it another second. Oh, Lawanda, I love UCLA background. As a fellow Bruin, that's bringing me a lot of joy.
Yay! That's why I want to be on camera.
I love it. I'm so glad you are.
Hi, Emily.
All right, it is 2:03, so I'm going to go ahead and get started, even though I still see people coming in. We'll get them caught up as they join us. Thank you so much for being here with us today. My name is Kate Lehman, and I am the Executive Director of the National Resource Center for First Year Experience and Students in Transition. Most people know us as the NRC or sometimes the Center. Before we get further into it, I want to just do a couple housekeeping things. I already pointed out that we are recording, so just keep that in mind. Also, we're going to be sure to save plenty of time for Q&A at the end. And so if you look on the bottom of your screen at the Zoom menu, you should see a little question mark button that says Q&A underneath it. And it would be super helpful if you can put your questions there, and then as you're asking questions or thinking questions, you can see if someone else has asked a similar question and can upvote questions that are of most interest to you, as that will help us prioritize. But of course, we'll also be moderating the chat. When we get to the end, we did decide, because we want to get to know all of you, we did decide to allow everyone to have their faces on. We didn't do this webinar style on purpose, so that we can see you and get to know you. So at the end, if you do ask a question and you want to, come elaborate, if we choose your question, if you want to come on camera and turn your mic on so we can hear you, that would also be great. Although we're happy to read your question if you'd prefer not to. So before I go beyond that, I want to have my NRC colleagues introduce themselves. And so next to me on my screen is Sean. So Sean, I'll have you go first.
All right, thanks, Kate. Hi, everyone. My name is Sean Cleary. I'm the Assistant Director for Resources and External Relations. I will be speaking about my area a little bit later on, so you'll get to know all about what I do. I'm excited to have you here. And I will pass on to next on my screen, which is Crystal Reynolds.
Hello, everyone. I'm Crystal Reynolds, the Assistant Director for Conferences and Continuing Education, and I will chat with you all shortly about my area. Passing to Jared.
Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Jared Warshaw. I serve as the Assistant Director for Research and Grants, and I too look forward to talking more together with you soon. I will pass things to perhaps a familiar face and colleague of yours, Emily Cottrell.
Hello, everyone. I'm joining you from Columbia, South Carolina. My move is complete, and I'm here in an office with the NRC team. I'm so excited to see wonderful, familiar names, but also some names I haven't seen in a long time, or maybe we're meeting you for the first time. So thank you so much for joining us to have this conversation. We're really excited to tell you what we're thinking about so far, still pretty new, and what we can maybe cook up in the future. Thanks for being here.
Awesome. Thank you, team. And as Emily just alluded to, one, I don't know if Emily shared her title or not, but Emily is our new transfer expert in residence, which is a really intentional choice on our part, because Emily's role is to come and help facilitate this shift in the NRC and bring all of the wonderful resources and help us build on the foundation of what NISTS has been doing so well for so many years in serving transfer students. So the goal of this session, so if you are a longtime friend of the NRC, there's going to be some stuff we share today that you're like, yes, I know, Kate. The goal of this session is to serve as a little bit of an orientation or a primer for those of you who are new to the NRC, and tell you about us. If you've been primarily interfacing with the NISTS for as part of your professional development, we want to make sure you kind of know who we are and how we work. And then as Emily was alluding to, and as all of my colleagues mentioned, I'm going to have each of the area directors share about their work and how we have been thinking about integrating and highlighting transfer initiatives in each area. But NISTS officially became part of the NRC on January 2nd. So we've had 26 days, although a little bit longer leading up to it, but we really haven't had a lot of time to fully flesh this out. So we're going to share the immediate things that we're doing. I do promise we're going to act quickly, but we're going to share some of the immediate plans that we have, but they're really just the beginning. And a big part of our immediate plans, as you'll hear in this session, is to hear from all of you about what you most need, about how we can best serve you. So please see this very much as a starting point of what will be, at least a year-long process of sort of fleshing out how this will work. So I'm going to start with a little bit of history about the NRC. Again, if you've been part of our community for a while, some of this may not be news. But the National Resource Center for First Year Experience, as it was initially known, was founded as sort of an outgrowth of the first year seminar movement. So briefly, I'll say that in the 70s, there was a lot of campus unrest here at the University of South Carolina, and then President Thomas Jones asked someone you probably all have at least heard of, John Gardner, who was a faculty member here at the time, to establish a first-year seminar. So he was the inaugural faculty director of what we call on our campus U101. And it worked really well, and John had the vision to establish a conference to talk about the first-year seminar and also popularize first-year seminars as a concept. They had existed prior to the 70s, but John, I think his major contribution was to help it scale nationwide. And so then in 1986, he established the National Resource Center to build on the First Year Experience Conference. I think many people still primarily know us for the FYE conference, which Crystal will talk more about later and is coming up in about 2.5 weeks. But the National Resource Center is much, much broader than that. And I also do want to know, you'll see we've added to the timeline the NRC being selected as the successor organization as a real key milestone in our history. And that really is how we feel about it, that it is that this is the marker of a next big transition for the NRC. Okay, next slide, please. So on this slide, you see our mission. We see ourselves as folks who serve educators in their work in supporting student success. So most of the folks who engage with the center are practitioners, educators themselves in a variety of capacities, and also, some higher ed scholars and the like. But we are really committed conceptually to the developmental power of student transitions. And so, yes, that has included and maybe been a bit focused on first year experience since the center's founding. But in the 90s, the center added the students in transition piece, and I'll talk more about that in a second. We're also really committed to being scholar practitioners and bringing together research and practice. So the publications that we write, the research that we do, it has theoretical underpinnings, but it's not just meant to be used in theory. It's been meant to be used every day by folks like yourselves to improve your work, to improve the lives of your students, to make higher education work better. We are collaborative. Something I didn't mention on the history slide, but should have, is that the NRC and NISTS were partners going back decades. And that speaks to our strong history of collaboration, both with our community, we invite members of our communities to be active participants in everything that we do, but we also reach out to other higher ed organizations and seek to be synergistic in our work. A lot of what we do is about learning. We're all educators, and so hopefully we all agree that learning is a wonderful thing, and we facilitate that through our conferences and continuing education team. We're also committed to inclusion and equity, and I mean that in every sense of the word. We strive to make sure, even though we are located at the University of South Carolina, a four-year public institution, that the work that we do is inclusive of the diversity of the higher education landscape. So all types of colleges and universities, two-year, four-year, private, public, religiously affiliated, you name it. And also reflects the many forms of diversity that is reflected in the group of educators who come together and serve our students, and then, of course, across our students themselves. Next slide, please. I think that most people in this room are familiar with how this happened, how this came to be that the NRC was selected as the successor. But that was announced this past October, we were selected in October. It was announced in December. And as I said earlier, we're about 3 weeks in to having the NISTS resources and having Emily here with us. And I'm not going to go too much in depth because, like I said, I think most people here are pretty familiar with the gist of how this came to be. But I do want to highlight that, when I learned that NISTS was being sunset, my goal was to just ensure that this incredible work continued. Do I think there are benefits for the NRC? Absolutely. But that was not the primary motivator. As I talked more to Janet and her team, there was already a lot of synergy, in part because I think we'd been affiliated going back decades. And it seemed like there was lots of ways to complement the work and elevate the work that the incredible NISTS staff had been doing. But it really felt kind of easy, actually, even though, there were parts of it that were hard. I hope what you'll see reflected today as we talk about it is that there's many ways in which I think the work that Emily and Janet and Judy and the rest of the team just could slide in here. And I think that's going to be a really exciting, fun time ahead. All right, next slide. So what do we mean by first year experience? This is important because I think it speaks to the breadth of our work. So while many people think of first year seminar as synonymous with first year experience, that is not how we think about it. It is, as you see from this quote from my friends, Drew and John, it's a set of academic and co-curricular initiatives. And I'll credit my wonderful friend Jennifer Coit for this constellation diagram that kind of shows you how there's many, many parts to this first year experience. And yes, first year seminar, maybe it's the anchor star at many institutions, but it's really the coming together of things like orientation and res life and service learning. And, these are just example stars. I think there's a lot of other programs that aren't reflected here. So I should probably reach out to Jennifer and we should update this and put new stars to reflect where we are today. Okay, next slide. I also said earlier that Students in Transition was added to the NRC in the 90s. And prior to this merger, for lack of a better term, my team was actually already in the process of trying to better flesh out what the heck we mean by students in transition. It can be sort of a nebulous term. And when I didn't share my own background, I've been in this role for 18 months. Prior to that, I was research faculty at UCLA. And so when I came here, I was sort of like, but isn't college just like all one big transition? Like, what do we mean by students in transition? And so my team has been trying to flesh that out. And this is the definition that we came up with. And importantly, you'll see that transfer was already part of that. We certainly were deferring to our colleagues at NISTS, but we have done work on transfer in the past, which Jarrett will share a real recent example of later. But that's what I mean by there were easy ways to slot this in. It was already part of sort of our vision and framing of the work we do at the NRC. So beyond first year experience and transfer pathways, we also think about things like major changes, the postgraduate transition, so from college to career or college to grad school or whatever that might be, and also reentry or re-engagement with higher education. So things like adult learners or folks coming back from military service. So we're really trying to, we do acknowledge that there is a continual transition process that is higher education, but that there are also these really important inflection points. And that's what we care about here at the NRC. Next slide. I do want to tell you a little bit about how our team operates to sort of set up my staff to tell you about their areas. So we have 3 primary areas on our team. We have the conferences and continuing education team, which Crystal leads and is supported by 2 fantastic coordinators, Michael Hood and Dandria Figueroa. We also have our research and grants team. And importantly, our research and grants team both manages grants that come in to the NRC as well as facilitating grants that we give out. So Jarrett works alongside our incredible research analyst, Kevin Winger, and we have a scholar in residence, Jamil Johnson, who's also faculty in the College of Education here. And then we have Sean's team, the resources and external relations team, which focuses a lot on our publications and our partnerships. And Sean works with Cade Crenshaw, who's his coordinator. So all of the emails that you get, all of that is Sean's team, and they do a fantastic job. I also want to, of course, mention that Emily has joined our leadership team, and while she doesn't have a particular area, that's also intentional because I foresee her work being infused across these 3 areas. And last but not least, if you've ever emailed the NRC, you likely have interacted with Rosa Thorne-Jones, who is our longest serving employee and is I don't know. She's just all knowing. She knows all of the most important things and keeps us together. So that's our team. Next slide. And at this point, I'm going to pass it to Crystal to share a little bit about our conference and continuing ed team and our plans to integrate transfer initiatives here.
Thank you, Kate. Hello again. The conferences and continuing education team, we oversee the center's professional development offerings as well as our awards programs. So in terms of the professional development, the center offers 2 primary conferences each year. Our annual conference on the first year experience is our largest gathering. We bring together around 1,500 to 2,000 delegates from around the world each year. This conference focuses broadly on the first year experience and provides a welcome environment to share ideas, research, programs, and tools around that first year experience. As Kate mentioned, we are gearing up for our annual conference here this February in Seattle, which is just a couple weeks away, and we are looking forward to that. Our other key conference is the National Conference on Students in Transition. This is our fully virtual conference that we hold each fall, and we typically have around 300 delegates in attendance. Our upcoming Students in Transition conference will take place at that end of September, so around September 30th to that October 2nd timeframe. And we typically will launch our call for proposals in early April. Topics for this conference include first-generation college students, transfer student experience, and community colleges, amongst others. And in addition to our conferences, we also offer online courses. Our online courses are primarily asynchronous and they run for approximately 4 weeks. We do have a nice slate of courses already prepared for this year. And those topics include academic recovery, first generation student support, transfer student experience, and the sophomore and junior year support. And additionally, our work includes leading 3 national recognition programs to celebrate the outstanding achievement of higher education professionals and initiatives across the field. If you want to go to the next slide. So as we prepare with our transfer work, some of the things that we will be looking forward to at our upcoming annual conference. During this conference, we will be honoring the work of NISTS. There will also be led by Emily, a pre-conference workshop on the transfer experience. And we will also have a listening session where attendees will be invited to, define priorities, challenges, and opportunities to help shape the transfer work with the center. Some other things that we are looking forward to doing is for the Students in Transition Conference, we are planning to increase our number of transfer-related sessions. So again, we will have that call for proposals. So that'll be a good time to submit proposals there to be considered for a conference session. And for the past few years, we've offered an online course on understanding and supporting transfer student success, led by Dr. Catherine Hartman. This course has filled up every year we've offered it, so we are very excited to be offering that again and continuing that work with her. So this is just some of the things that we are doing. We are, as we move forward with our conferences and events and institutes, we will be incorporating the transfer work as we can.
For research and grants, I'm happy to share with you a snapshot of what we do and, of course, ways in which we are just beginning now to think about ways to make transfer a more explicit component in each aspect of our work. And so we can move to the next slide because I will hit on the different aspects of our work as we move through ways that, again, transfer is going to be more at the heart of what we're doing. So one of the first key areas that we have in research and grants is conducting research to advance a scholarly agenda in the field. As it relates more specifically, though, to transfer work, maybe about 5 years ago, affiliate scholars of ours conducted the 2021 National Study of Transfer Student Initiatives. And much like other survey research that the NRC has done historically, the emphasis was on what were institutions doing to be supportive and helpful for transfer student success. And the survey in particular, it focused on transfer student enrollment. It focused on transfer student objectives and initiatives. It focused on assessment. It looked at orientation, advising, and transfer and or academic study skill courses, and then began to chart what the future of transfer initiatives might look like throughout the post-secondary system. More generally, I think this is a great opportunity for us to revisit that survey and to see ways in which we may be able to improve upon it or perhaps pivot from it. I think that the authors of the report would agree that it was a very ambitious project, yet also something very challenging to do in a systematic way related to transfer initiatives. And so it's time for us to think about ways that we could perhaps devise other types of studies to address questions that were important to them regarding, for example, high impact practices or the role of equity in transfer work and the like. And so part of what we'll be doing too is starting to design projects that might complement any kind of survey work that we do. A parallel example would be some of the things we're doing now as it relates to postgraduate success initiatives, where it doesn't just have to be a survey. There's other types of research methods like focus groups and case studies that can be helpful to getting at the things that may seem most pressing or urgent for the field. Another aspect of our work, it includes collaborating with affiliate scholars. It hasn't necessarily been a formalized program per se that we've had in seeking out others in the field to collaborate with or to consult with on specific projects. Instead, the NRC historically has invited very specific people to work on very specific projects for a limited time. And I think here there's an opportunity, of course, to think about ways in which we may bring in some leading experts from the field to help us deepen our research capacity, to broaden our reach and also our impact. And for us too, and as Kate had mentioned earlier, while I am a theory guy and I like contributing to new conceptual frameworks and things like that, it's all about making this as practically relevant as possible. So to the extent that we could draw on practices taking place on the ground to enrich theory and research, also to be able to figure out ways to find evidence to support the things that you all know work really well. That's certainly going to be a component of what we might chart out with with affiliate scholars. So to be clear, affiliate scholars, we know it's something that we're committed to and that we want to do moving forward, especially in the area of transfer. How we're going to go about doing that, that's still to be determined. And then, as Kate mentioned earlier too, not only are we in the business of pursuing grants to be able to support this type of work and research, but we also administer grants. And so clearly we would look to find funders to bring in resources that would help us be able to implement and disseminate work that we produce. And we also have our Paul P. Fiddler Research Grant, which is awarded annually, and now it's a $10,000 award. Transfer has certainly been a part of what we've looked for in that competition, and also too the Fiddler Grant that has been focused on transitions beyond the first year. And so clearly we would be explicit in wanting to support work that focuses on transfer students. We don't outright control, who is going to win or who's going to not, or who won't. There is a peer review process that we have in place. But I think especially as we promote and try to raise the visibility of this competition, we would be very clear about the interest that we have with transfer. And just this past year, we realized that historically NRC has funded a lot of qualitative research. So we thought, why not just be more clear with people about how we would be interested in projects that would have at least some type of quantitative component, but we would fund the project that is the best, that is the strongest, whether it's qualitative or quantitative. And just through the peer review process, the recipients, they were using national data on students, and it was quantitative, yet it also fit with other criteria for the award. So it worked out well to put it out there into the universe, what it is our interests are, and then to see how the field responds with proposals. Also, it might be helpful to note that for us, we don't, as NISTS used to do, we don't alternate funding between dissertations and research projects carried out by faculty or other scholars in the field. We do open the call so that it could go towards graduate students who are further along, maybe in their dissertation work, or early career folks, and so on and so forth. And we've seen a great mix of applicants that have come through, and even in terms of award recipients. But again, that's certainly a part of our portfolio that we'd be able to leverage to make sure that transfer is a more explicit component. And so this really walks through, I hope you'll find kind of the key aspects of what we do with research and grants. And I certainly look forward to engaging with you all moving forward, to learning from you all, and to addressing any questions that you might have, as we head on forward here in the webinar. So thank you all.
All right. Hello, everyone. Just to reintroduce myself, my name is Sean Cleary. I'm the Assistant Director for Resources and External Relations, and I'm excited to share a little bit about my area with all of you today. So just to get started, I want to share that the NRC has a pretty robust library of publications that are available for purchase through Stylus Publishing. So the QR code that you see at the top of this slide will take you straight to our publications catalog in case you're curious to see what print publications we have, what ebooks are available. Lots of great resources out there across a wide range of different topics across higher ed, including transfer. We also are starting a move to more open access resources. So one of our newest research reports, which is Research Report 14, that focuses on the 2023 results of the National Survey on the First Year Experience. That's all available, all 4 volumes, free to download from our website, as well as a host of other resources, both past and present. So the QR code at the bottom of this slide will take you to our website so you can access all of those open access publications. So going forward, we're going to be working with our book distributor and kind of just brainstorming internally about what we feel like is best to put out there as a print publication or as an ebook, and what may be better served as an open access publication, just so we know that it reaches as many people as possible. We have another big open access publication coming out soon on HBCU student experiences. So we're really excited about all the things that we have in motion, but also excited to brainstorm what's going to be new heading into the future. I also saw that Emily posted in the chat that we have a lot of scholar practitioners here today, which is exciting. So I want to draw your attention to Insights for College Transitions. This is one of the publications that the center puts out that you can actually submit articles to for consideration for being published. Insights is a resource that emphasizes evidence-based strategies for practitioner scholars who work with both first-year students and students in transition, whether that's inside or outside the classroom or both. So this is kind of a rebrand. If you have been a fan of the centers for a while, you may remember a resource that was called eSource for College Transitions. That is what Insights rebranded to back in fall 2025. So we are about to publish our 4th issue of Insights, which is our spring issue on March 4th. Insights is completely free to subscribe to. So a little bit later on in a few slides, I will give you that QR code so you can go and check out all the past issues. And also on that same page with all the articles is all the information on how to submit to Insights and what that process and timeline looks like. If you are interested in writing for Insights, I will share that we've already selected articles for our fall and our spring and summer issues, but we are accepting article submissions for our fall issue, and those are going to be due on June 1st. I'll remind you of that deadline again shortly, but just something to be thinking about if you've been doing some research and have some really cool things that people can just read and instantly put into practice. We'd love to have your submissions for those. A couple other just facts about Insights. Our editor of Insights is Dr. Annie Kelly from the University of Cincinnati. We publish 3 times a year, fall, spring, and summer. We have articles selected across 4 different categories. Even though there's 7 articles we publish in Insights, 4 of those we select manuscripts for. The other 3 are articles that either our team writes or we're tapping like an individual in the field to write a piece for us. So that's why those aren't we don't have submissions open for those. Right now we have about 1,700 subscribers for Insights, which we're really excited about. We get about 20 to 25 submissions per issue. And then we also are evolving an editorial review board for Insights as well. So I would definitely stay tuned for more information about that if you happen to be interested in being a reviewer of articles in the future. Another great resource that we have is our Journal of the First Year Experience and Students in Transition. This is also something that we accept manuscripts for. The main difference, though, is that the journal is open for submissions year-round. So there's not as strict of deadlines as there are with with insights. The journal is a little bit more robust, though. The manuscript submissions for this are a maximum of 30 pages, so these are more in-depth articles. They do share pretty heavy research, but there is a piece at the end for implications, so things that people can really quickly walk away from and put into practice based on your article. Our editor for the journal is Dr. Joey Kitchen. He is with the Polius Center for Higher Education at the University of Southern California, so the other USC. He just started as editor this month and is doing a great job. We also have an editorial review board made up of 37 members, and they help to review and screen all of the articles and give recommendations for publication. The journal is subscription-based right now, so it is $45 for an individual subscription for the year and $140 for an institutional subscription. I would recommend checking with your library on campus to see if they have a subscription. That way you can just access everything for free. All subscriptions give you access to every article published since the journal was created in 1989, so a lot of great content out there. We are trying to move towards a more open access model for the journal in the coming years. So to do that, we are starting to publish more articles. There will be 10 articles per issue going forward instead of the usual 6 to 7 that we had. We're also exploring more indexing opportunities, and we just added DOIs to all of our journal articles as well to help with that indexing. So a lot of exciting things coming with the journal. If you are interested in getting involved with the journal, that editorial review board that I mentioned, we have a call for new members every fall. So stay tuned in October, November for information about how to apply, because we would love to have your expertise if it's something that you're interested in. And before we move on to the next slide, I just want to call out that we have a lot of partnerships in place at the center. These are really phenomenal for us because it allows us just to really get out there into the field more. We go to a lot of conferences in addition to our own, so it gives us the ability to present our research, to set up in exhibitor halls and talk to people about our publications and the work that we're doing. So we're really excited to have partnerships with all of the organizations that you see here on your screen. And just some exciting things we have in the pipeline when it comes to how we're doing our transfer planning within my team. For book publications, I want to give a little shout out to Emily and also Catherine Hartman, who I know a lot of you know. We're picking up some active NISTS publications that were in progress. That includes a guide for working with new professionals, which is titled Transfer Essentials, which Emily and Catherine are currently working on. We're also exploring the idea of a special issue focused on transfers for a 2027 publication for our journal. So stay tuned for more about that as the year progresses, as we hopefully can open up a call for submissions for that. With Insights for College Transitions, we do select transfer content as appropriate for each section. Our spring issue is actually going to feature a transfer-focused article, so we're really excited to have that out there in about a little over a month. So if you feel like you have some research that fits nicely into one of the categories for Insights that's focused on transfer, don't hesitate to send it in. We'd love to have that. When it comes to our advisory board, we have 3 members of the NISTS community that have joined our advisory board. That includes Janet Marling, Rose Rojas, and Heather Adams. So we're excited to have them on board. I know that Heather and Janet will be at our FYE conference, so we're looking forward to connecting with them in person there as well. And then with webinars similar to the one that we're doing today, we are looking to have some more transfer-focused webinars when we get back from our FYE conference. As Crystal alluded to, we're going to be doing some listening and brainstorming sessions for transfers at FYE, but we know that not everyone can make it to the conference for those sessions, so we want to find a way to bring that virtually so that we hear everyone's voices, not just those at the conference. So be on the lookout for some more information about upcoming webinars soon. And then we're also looking to do some more broad FYE students in transition content that we hope you'll be interested in. We're looking to do a peer mentorship webinar in partnership with the Polius Center for Higher Education. That's something that we're going to be hopefully brainstorming and kind of getting on the calendar when we get back from the conference. So lots of things to come from our area as well as the other areas that you've heard from today. And just to close this out before we get ready to dive into some Q&A and leave time open for that, I want to share just a couple ways that you can stay engaged with the center as we move forward. So this is kind of also a shameless plug for my area, but we'd love for you to follow us on social media. My team manages the social media accounts for the center as well as emails, like Kate mentioned. And we post a lot. So we really try to get all of the good things that the center is working on out there. We want to make sure you're informed of deadlines and events and online courses and making sure that you know exactly what we're doing and get signed up on time. So whatever your preferred platform is, Instagram, Facebook, X, LinkedIn, we are on all of them. So definitely feel free to give us a follow. And we also have created brand new online communities for all first year experience and student success professionals in higher education. These are available on Facebook and LinkedIn. So if you'd like to join one of the communities and stay in touch, ask questions, pick people's brains about certain topics, we'd love for you to join those groups and start some conversations in there. With professional development, Crystal mentioned the conference on the first year experience earlier. We are going to reopen registration. This is our on-site registration period next week. So if you really wanted to come to the conference, but you missed the deadline, there's still time. So definitely keep an eye out for that. And head over to our website next week to get registered if you're still interested in attending. Or feel free to pass this along if you have any colleagues that are interested in coming as well. And online course registration is also open for our first slate of classes of the year. That includes Catherine Hartman's course on transfers. We also have one coming up in March on supporting students in the middle years, so those sophomore, junior years. So we would encourage you to head over to the website to check out those course descriptions, learn more about the instructors, and see the dates that those are going to be offered on. And finally, just to revisit some of the stuff we touched on earlier, all things journal can be found at sc.edu/fye/journal. That has all of the submission requirements for the journal. So if you are interested in submitting an article for publication, definitely take a look through there. And if you have questions, we have the contact information for our journal editorial team on there. If you want to reach out and get connected, and just if you have anything on your mind about manuscripts, we're happy to help. And with Insights, you can head over to sc.edu/fye/insights. That has everything you need to know about Insights. That'll link you out to Substack so you can read all of the journal articles. And it also has all the submission requirements for Insights as well. And the QR code with the scan to subscribe text above it, that will take you to the Substack page so you can subscribe for free so that you get all issues when they're released. And just to kind of go off what Crystal mentioned earlier, keep an eye out this spring for Students in Transition Conference proposal submissions. And then usually like late summer, we'll start to open for the next year's first year experience conference. So we definitely encourage you to submit a conference session proposal if you're interested. All right, and with that, I am going to pass things over to Emily to help us moderate our Q&A. I know we may have had some questions come in either through the chat or the Q&A feature. And yeah, Emily, I'll pass over to you so we can help answer anything that's on y'all's minds.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sean, Crystal, and Jarrett, and Kate for that wonderful overview of all the great things that are going on at the center. It's been a whirlwind to try to learn everything, but luckily these folks know what they're doing. So we're in good hands, everyone. Again, I'm really excited to have you all on the call today, and I hope this was helpful, but we would love to answer your questions. And so I'm watching the Q&A box, and there are a couple of things we can address there. But if you want to, if something has just occurred to you, feel free to type it in, or I guess, Sean and Kate, if now's an okay time, we could even take off the slides and just kind of look at faces and maybe invite people to come off mute after we address the questions that we've got in the QA box. But up first is one for Crystal and Kate. And you guys know I have opinions on these things, but I'm going to let these experts answer for us today. So I will ask, Kim Morton is a dear friend of NISTS, and of course, one of our folks here in You Wanna Win has roots at App State, so we talk about y'all all the time. But Kim says, is there a conversation around a standalone transfer conference down the road? And I agree, Kim, that was certainly one of the beautiful things about NISTS was that cross-functional collaboration we could do on-site together. And that was all of the areas, not just student affairs, not just enrollment, and not just academic affairs. So Kate and Crystal, you want to discuss that one?
Sure thing. I'll start and then Crystal, you add in. So when I was in talks with Janet and Emily and the team, it was very clear to me that the in-person component is really essential. And so we have committed to doing that in some form or fashion. Conference planning, though, like we are booked out for FYE till 2029. And so I'm not saying that it's going to take us until 2029 to get a conference off the ground. I'm just saying it's not a thing we could stand up like this year. So the first thing we did was added some stuff at FYE in case there are people who could come to that and be in person. but we are looking at a couple of different options. I think the most likely is that next year we're looking breaking news. Next year's FYE will be in Orlando, which is a thing we usually announce at the end of our conference. But it's out there already, so it's not a huge secret. And we're exploring if we can add on to FYE to sort of either co-locate a separate event or have basically like a pre-conference, but it would be like a day and a half before FYE, so we can take advantage of the existing hotel contract, because that's the biggest barrier, right? Like finding a space that would accommodate the conference. And also, there's significant financial risk for us to, sign a huge, $500,000 contract for something a couple years down the road. And so I'm going to say we are committed to providing this, and I hope that we can count on you to also be committed to showing up. Because in order for us to do this, we need folks to actually come. And I get it. The financial climate in higher ed right now is extremely challenging. I mean, a lot of things are extremely challenging, but as I'm talking about conferences, I know people are having to make choices about what conferences they can attend, and like Kim said, you have to pick one. So that's our initial idea about how to do this first. And then assuming that that is successful and I'm able to, make the case to our board that we could stand up a second conference, we could look at that. But that's sort of my initial thought about how we would do it quickly. I will say our big FYE conference being in 2.5 weeks, we have not done that yet, but as soon as we get back, that's our top priority, is to figure out what we can accommodate at Orlando next year as a starting point. And then we'll go from there. But I am committed to doing an in-person something. How that looks, I think will depend on how successful these, I feel bad. I'm not trying to put pressure on people. I get that there's choices, but we'll do something and then we'll see how it goes and we'll keep tweaking from there. What did I miss, Crystal? What are your additional thoughts?
You touched all of our points. I know we've been in deep discussion about what a transfer conference or in-person event will look like. So once we get back from our conference, Kate, Emily, and I will get together and kind of really, see what's feasible and see what we can do, because we're very interested in getting folks together.
Thank you both for those answers. And so stay tuned, I think, is the takeaway there, because we're probably going to have some sweet announcements in a few months after we've done some planning and strategizing. So thank you for that question. And Jennifer, I just want to acknowledge your statement and a follow-up question in the chat, because it is similar. You are exactly right. There are lots of conferences out there that have a transfer presence. And so potentially there are ways we could look at being there, organizing something, maybe not a full-on transfer conference event, but some sort of transfer strand where we can all get together. So certainly open to those things. And we've got that type of engagement opportunity on our list to brainstorm through as well. So thanks for shouting out CSCC. And you are right. We always see a lot of good transfer research happening there. So thanks very much for that.
Before you move on, that actually brings up another thing I was thinking about when Sean was presenting about our partnerships, which is to say that I am aware that there are lots of other organizations, including CSCC, but also, like ATD, like other groups that have a bigger stake in transfer. Like the groups we mentioned do work on transfer students, but separately, there's other organizations. And so on my list for this year is for me to branch out and attend some of those other different events that I haven't historically been at, or the NRC hasn't historically been at, to learn more and figure out how we can develop partnerships that capture our elevated focus on transfer. So I think it's not just about I think doing something at CSCC would make a whole lot of sense, but it's also about developing strong partnerships with the other organizations that engage around this work.
Yep, so much good stuff going on. It's hard to keep track. I want to head to Joshua Jones's question. So Josh, thank you so much for being here, because he is a student at LSU. on the student governing board and is interested in being engaged. And so what kinds of opportunities do we have for potentially transfer students themselves to get involved with what we do here? Any thoughts on that, Sean or Kate?
You go first, Sean.
I think my initial thought here was if there's anyone at your like campus that you may want to connect with for any like research. I don't know if you're doing research or if that's an interest to you, but some of the resources I mentioned earlier, like I think Insights could be a great one. If you have someone like a professional staff on your campus that you can partner with to like write different like topics of interest or things you're working on that you feel might resonate well with the practitioner scholar community. A lot of the Insights articles are very quick. So they're like 500 to 1200 words, but they have like really strong takeaways. So if there's something that you feel like would be great for people working with students in transition, first year students to know, apply in the classroom, apply outside the classroom, especially based on your own experience as a student, that could be a really good starting point. But also attending conferences too. We have a lot of undergrad students who come to conferences. We tend to have a lower rate for students for some of the conferences as well. So that could be a great way just to kind of tap in, attend sessions, especially with the Students in Transition Conference. We've added some new networking pieces there virtual for that. So that's a good way to start to build your network and try to find like areas of interest for you and just start to build connections with colleagues as well, which is definitely important as a student as you start to build your network going into your professional career.
Yeah, those are great ways. I was thinking along similar lines. And I think, I'll just add, Joshua, I'm really glad you're here. The NRC really values student voices in all of our work. And so, I hope that you'll consider contributing your expertise. Your lived experience is expertise, and we can learn from you. So I hope, like, Sean said, you'll consider maybe submitting or presenting at SIT. And also, I don't know if you're thinking about how you can improve things locally at LSU. As you're getting familiar with our resources, I hope you'll share with folks on your campus about the NRC and our work on transfer students, and pass those resources along so that we can better support educators on your campus.
Totally agree. And obviously I'm the newbie here, but Joshua, I will say you're doing it already because you showed up today. And so clearly you're on a mailing list somewhere. So staying engaged and informed is a great way for you to stay connected and also pass on those tidbits as they mentioned. So thank you for being here with us today. We do always love hearing from students. Taylor's got another great question in the QA box, and she's interested in understanding about maybe are there opportunities for them to get involved on committees at NISTS. Just for context for the NRC team, they may or may not know, but we had multiple committees that supported our annual conference specifically. And then we also had multiple working groups on resources and publications that could either be readers and reviewers for us or actively working on those publications. So what kinds of opportunities, besides just attendance at these events, do folks who engage with the NRC have?
Great question. I'll start with a point of clarification. We are not a professional association, meaning that we don't have members. And that is intentional on our part because we don't want to charge an extra fee that's like an extra layer between you and getting to our resources. And I am increasingly, as I am able to make it happen financially, I'm moving away from as many paywalls as I can. So we're making more and more of our publications open access. We've lowered the price of the Students in Transition conference, so it's under $300 for registration. Because we're very aware of the financial constraints and our mission. Like, we also aren't an independent nonprofit. We are embedded in the University of South Carolina, and while that is its own interesting dynamic of like being embedded at a particular institution, the massive benefit. Well, first of all, the University of South Carolina is a wonderful place to be. They're incredibly supportive, and I'm so grateful for the ways in which they invest. But it also means that the offices that we're sitting in are paid for by the University of South Carolina, and it just gives us a little more ability. I'm not reporting to a board of directors. We have an advisory board, but it just gives us a little more flexibility. So that's important to know, because I'm not going to ask any of you at the end of this to join as members. You can come in and out of the NRC community, and our tent is as big, as the Zoom platform can hold. So that's an important thing. There are many ways, though, for folks to get involved. We don't currently have like committees per se. I think committees for planning a conference, like that is a wonderful model, but it is a tremendous amount of work that is done on the backs of a lot of volunteers. And you all are very busy doing the work that you are doing with your students. And I know that you are underpaid for that work. And so I don't want to add to that burden. And so we're so fortunate to have a professional staff that handles all the logistics. Where we do ask for folks to, provide service to the NRC community is with your expertise. We have Emily as our transfer expert in residence. I am not an expert in transfer. I do have a background in higher ed scholarship, but that's not my main research area. So I'm working on it. I'm building my transfer muscle, but we need all of you to offer your expertise. So ways that can happen: reviewing for conferences. We always are seeking volunteers for people to review proposals. Reviewing for the Fiddler Grant. That's especially important because we're looking for people who, as we get proposals for folks to do research on transfer, having experts on transfer to review that proposal is essential. And then, of course, so reviewing proposals, both grant and presentation proposals. Also submitting content. So we are reliant, we bring speakers, the NRC does a bunch of presentations. We have our fantastic research team. We have Jarrett and Kevin. I didn't mention, we have a grad student from IU who does a lot of transfer work too. So we have our own research team, but there's no way that we could generate enough knowledge here by ourselves. And so that's where I think we're really hoping that you all will contribute and show up. We also often invite collaborators on our publications. So as an example, I'm working on a co-edited volume that's in collaboration with the Belk Center on adult learners. And we reached out to a lot of, expert folks to contribute to that edited volume. So I think there's opportunities to get involved across our team. But we don't have like standing committees per se. We put out various calls for volunteers. That's not to say that we could never have a committee. We just currently don't. Folks, colleagues, what I miss?
I did want to add one thing that I don't know if I mentioned earlier, that we will likely add a transfer focused award to our awards recognitions. And that award will be recognized at our Students in Transition Conference this fall. And we typically launch that call for nominations in the spring as well, so April-ish. So another way for involvement is to, submit nominations and to also sign up to be a reviewer for those nominations.
Great catch. So we are winding down on time. We are so thankful for all of you being here today and engaging in this conversation. And the beauty of this moment is that we don't know. It's TBD. We've got some really great ideas, but we will be doing active planning and strategizing around what transfer should and could look like under the NRC umbrella. And we will rely on your wonderful input to help guide that work. So tomorrow morning, Sean is going to send you a survey with 3 very quick and easy questions where you could provide some of that initial input to get our wheels turning. So we laid out what's already on the table based on the existing structure today, but that doesn't mean we've thought of everything. We would love to hear from you and help us think outside the box. Think in the box, but also outside the box, just in case there's something really exciting that we haven't thought of yet. So we hope you'll take a few minutes to fill out that survey and give us some insights wink, wink, on the survey, but maybe in the future publication as well. Fill that out for us so that we can learn from you, and do be sure to sign up for the mailing list if you're not already on there, so that we can stay engaged and connected over the next several months as we roll this work out. So we really appreciate you, and I'll leave it to Kate to close us out.
Thank you so much, Emily. Mostly, I just want to thank you all for being here today. It's really exciting to see 85 people show up live, and we had over 200 registered. So I think this is a really good start. I did drop in the chat our, like generic NRC email. So if there's stuff we didn't get to today or questions that come up later, please feel free to shoot them to that mailbox. And then, Rosa, who I mentioned earlier, will get that directed to the right person to answer your question. I'll also Emily dropped her new email in the chat. I'll also drop mine. I will admit that until FYE, I might be a little slow to respond. But I, look forward to getting to know many of you, all of you. And if we're at a conference, please come introduce yourselves. The NRC community is a really wonderful, supportive, caring group of folks. And Emily has said the same about the transfer community, and I think it's going to be a really beautiful blended family. So thank you for being here, and be in touch with us. We hope to see you at a future NRC event real soon.